This week's episode of Fireside is brought to you by Legends of Belize and Wonders Oddities Expo.
Hello, everybody. You're listening to Fireside Paranormal Podcast. My name is Jordan Cline. Again, another great show planned out today. My guest is Hannah Burd with Spooky B Paranormal. Before we get to her, just a few announcements. I would like to dedicate this episode to Brian Falls. Brian passed away this week from a heart attack. He was a good friend of mine, and just want to give a little memorial for him. So thank you so much, Brian, for being who you are.
Legends of Belize is a series about mythical creatures that dwell in the jungles and waters of Belize. The Belizean legends are captured, documented, and preserved like never before in a comprehensive art series and books with fully colored and detailed images of fine art by artists, authors, and award-winning animators Dismas and Grissi G. Discover the supernatural creatures that await deep in the jungles, such as the mysterious dwarf called Tata Duende with backwards feet known to rip the thumbs off of trespassers, or the beautiful shape-shifting woman known to locals as the Ishtabai, who seduces drunks to never be seen again. These creatures and many more can be found in the Legends of Belize books. Learn about the cryptozoological, paranormal, and unexplained creatures that haunt Belize. Be fascinated. Be terrified. Belize. Legend of Belize books are available in print and ebook. Buy your copy from your favorite online bookstores such as Amazon, KDP, Apple Books, and many more. Also be sure to visit legendsofbelize.com.
I had a great time this weekend at the Wonders Oddities Expo and the Tri-State Exotic Animal Expo, their event at the West Virginia State Penitentiary. You all are definitely so good to me, coming up and telling me your stories and joining the show with your featured stories and just hearing your support. I really do appreciate every single one of you out there. So thank you. There are more shows coming up, so I will keep you updated on the next one. Also, something really neat that happened this weekend. While I was at the expo, I got an email from Paranormality magazine, and I am in this month's issue. They got a nice little spread out for the show, so make sure you check that out. Let's get into our featured story. Today's featured story comes in from Amber.
My name's Amber. I am from Greensburg, Pennsylvania.
Nice.
And I used to live in Blairsville, Pennsylvania. And there was a friend of mine whose father had passed away in the house that I moved into. And it had been years since he had passed. But I was the only person living in the house, and the one morning I remember I woke up and I smelled this man's cologne. And I really, it confused me because I was obviously the only person in the house. And so I remember I kept smelling it. It was very strong. It was very potent. And when I left my bedroom, I couldn't smell it, but I went back into my bedroom and it was right there.
Was it old school, like Brute?
It was musky. It was very musky. And so I ended up talking to my friend, and he had said to me, he's like, well, I'm interested. He's like, because my dad's cologne is no longer made. So he goes, I have a bottle of it from whenever he passed. And he brought it over to the house. And the moment I smelled it, I was like, no. He was like, yeah. He's like, my dad totally cuddled with you. And he so laughed about it while he did it because he was a jokester. He was like, so he knew he was getting you. He knew. But that house was very haunted. He was not the only ghost there. There was definitely, I don't know if it was a demon or a poltergeist.
Okay.
But for some reason, it did not attack me. But anybody else who came in that house got a scratch of 3. One girl had it on her wrist. It was probably about a 4-inch mark. And it was just right up her wrist, almost like she tried to commit suicide.
So like claw free, not like
Yes.
scratch here, scratch here, scratch.
No, like it was probably about 1 inch to 2 inches apart, and you could see where it was almost like the first 3 fingers, where your middle finger goes up a little higher. That's how it started.
Oh, wow.
And it came down. Another gentleman went from right shoulder to left hip across his back.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Another friend, I did not tell her about the hauntings in the house.
Why would you?
And before we pulled up to my house, and she said, "Who's standing in the front window?" And I said, "What do you mean?" She's like, "No, really, who's standing in the front window?" And I told her, I was like, "Well, I do believe that the house is haunted." And she was like, "Yeah, she doesn't want me coming in there." And she's like, "I'm not allowed to come in there." And I was like, "Well, if you hold my hand, she'll let you in." She was like, "I don't know." And when we crossed into the threshold, she said it moved back to the next doorway. Like it shifted from one doorway back to the next one, which was between my dining room and my kitchen.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah, she said that spirit was not happy. She said it was not a happy spirit, but it did not bother me. For some reason, it just wouldn't.
Well, that's good.
So, yeah, I was happy. But I only lived there for about 6 months. I couldn't take it anymore. I was like, I got to get out of here. It's too much.
I'll be here long enough to find somewhere else.
Right. This is just temporary. I'm going to leave the ghosts exactly where they are, and I will go.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thank you so much, Amber. And if you want your story to be one of our featured stories, make sure you send me an email, firesideparanormalpodcast@gmail.com.
If it's dark, twisted, and mysterious, then I want to dissect every possible explanation as to why it is. I want to understand the dark psychology of the most dangerous serial killers, from the day they were born to the moment they snapped. I want to examine every cryptic conspiracy and even delve into the haunted paranormal. Join me, Ashley Lana, as I explore the obscure. This is Lullaby the Fear Podcast. Sweet dreams are made of these.
All right, I want to get to my guest. Join me by the fire as we welcome Hannah B. with Spooky B Paranormal. Hannah, you with us?
Hi, how are you?
Good. Thank you so much for coming on the show.
Of course. Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited.
Oh, shucks. What's nice is, for those of you out there, she says she listens to the show, which makes me, warm and fuzzies. So
I do. I try and even if, I go on another podcast and I get a recommendation from that host, I always go and try and listen to all the other paranormal and, true crime and spooky podcasts because they make me warm and fuzzy.
so who's your go-to true crime?
True crime podcast?
Oh, yeah.
I'm about to expose myself as a little bit of an alcoholic here, but there's this podcast called Wine and Crime, and it's these two gals from Minnesota who progressively get more and more wine drunk as they talk about true crime topics. And it gives me life because then I progressively get more wine drunk and I have very heated opinions about lots of true crime stuff because I studied forensic psychology and criminal psychology for a long time.
Uh-huh.
And I get this complex when I get wine drunk, and it's you don't know what you're talking about. Put me on this show for 30 seconds and I'll own all of you. I definitely would not. I don't recommend doing any of that, but
I actually think one that you would like, so you got to look it up, is True Crime Campfire.
True Crime Campfire. I feel like I've seen that come up on my suggestions.
If you, with your sense of humor, you will love it. It's two ladies, and they say they're roasting marshmallows and murderers, but they literally roast. While they're telling the story, they're just making fun of them the whole time. It's hilarious.
I'm going to look this up after this interview because yes, I would love that.
Yeah, it's one of my favorite true crime. That and Lullaby the Fear. It's a little more serious, but she does a great job too. Ashley Lana.
I fall asleep to the true crimes that are more storytelling and dramatic retellings of what happened. I don't know if you're familiar with the Parcast Network.
No.
They have a massive, massive range of crime and paranormal shows that are told, and beyond that, way beyond that, but they're told in a kind of reenactment kind of way.
Okay.
So it's very engaging. It's not as cut and dry and informative as some of the others are. But I fall asleep to that because to me, it's like listening to an episode of Forensic Files because I can fall asleep to that too, no problem.
Well, it's funny. I'm really into true crime. You think all you listen to is paranormal podcasts because that's what you do. I listen to very few paranormal podcasts. I listen to a lot of true crime. But in reality, I'm a big chicken. And, like, it's not missed on me that, like, that is real stuff that's happened to real people. So, like, if I'm, like, walking the dog at night or anything like that and, like, an animal moves in the woods, I'm, like, done.
Yeah.
I can't handle it.
Like, when I was studying forensics, it kind of dawned on me as I was nearing the end, because I had a family member who was a retired FBI special agent, and he was trying to get me set up with all these interviews and stuff to go into the FBI. And it finally dawned on me that I was on a straight path to go into like law enforcement or the Federal Bureau of Investigation. I was like, I'm too scared of being murdered. I don't think I want to do this anymore.
Because, like, you watch on the shows, like, they get hunted too. And I'm not ready for that.
It's not lost on me that, like, eventually I'd be sitting a desk job. But what they don't tell you is to get to that desk job, you have to do the really dangerous, stupid stuff nobody wants to do. Like, I'd rather not.
Oh, man. Yeah, I'm with you. Now, we are going to talk about paranormal stuff. What got you into the paranormal? What created Spooky B? What is it? Where do you go?
So I'd like to preface this by saying I'm the only one in my family who does this.
Okay.
The rest of my family has the opinion of, you know what? She's happy. We will let her have it. But silently judge me behind closed doors. I had an experience when I was a really young kid in my the house that I grew up in. And when I was a little kid, like before it could, dawn on a kid that I can go research something on a computer and learn more about it. I was a little kid. And in my room at our old house, there used to be a figure of a woman in light blue pants and a white blouse.
Oh, wow.
Appear in my room. And, the whole idea of ghosts in the paranormal at that time was like, woo, clearly not there. And I had no idea what this was. It was not threatening or scary or unnerving in any way. Maybe if, I'd been a little bit older, it might have been.
Yeah.
But she never said anything. She never did anything. She just stood in the corner and looked out. In my old room, I had sliding doors that went out onto a balcony, and she would just stand and stare out the window. Never saw her anywhere else in the house. And, when I got older, I started watching like Scooby-Doo and Ghost Adventures and Ghost Hunters and those kind of shows. It kind of hit me that, oh, shit, like,
everybody starts with Scooby-Doo. That's the gateway.
You are lying if you said you didn't start with Scooby-Doo. Like, come on. Like, the idea of solving mysteries with your friends was like the coolest thing ever when you're a kid. But I did look into my old house's history when I was older a little bit, and there's nothing there. Like, nobody died that's on the record. Nobody, it's not like on an old cemetery burial ground or whatever. Nothing exciting. But coming off of that, I kind of realized that, after, Ghost Hunters, I started watching that, and Ghost Adventures, that this was something that I could potentially do myself. And after having that experience as a kid, I just wanted to know more about it and like more of what there was to it. So by the time I was like 13, I want to say, so I've been doing this for about 10 years now, a little bit over.
Okay.
I started going urban exploring with some of my older friends.
Urban exploring, that's a new term for me. What is that?
So it's exploring abandoned places, photography, just wandering around, taking in the experience. Highly recommend if you're going to do it, don't be like me and do it illegally. I never got arrested, but there was lots of trespassing that I don't like admitting to, so don't do that. There are plenty of places that you can legally urban explore and take photos and get that experience. But
quote unquote legally.
There are plenty of spots where you actually can legally do that. I promise. But it was never like full on property. It was like broken down, abandoned old houses. My friends and I would, go in with our cell phones or our little Radio Shack recorders. And, that was what started the whole paranormal investigating for us, because obviously we didn't have any of like the fancy equipment that I do now when we were that age. But it really wasn't until about 2 years ago now that I started genuinely traveling to do this stuff. And I just happened to fall in and meet the right people at the right time. And I was very lucky to spend a year traveling across the country and just going to super, super cool locations. I've been lucky enough to spend 2 nights at Waverly Hills Sanitarium.
Nice.
I've been to West Virginia Penitentiary.
That's where I live.
No
I'm
way,
right.
yeah?
I'm like maybe 20 minutes from the pen.
Oh yeah, I was there last summer, and we also went up to Trans-Allegheny
Nice.
and College Hill Hospital.
Okay.
But
Yep.
that was like the stupidest trip I have ever taken. It was back-to-back nights, and they're like not close to each other, so it was like maybe get 2 hours of sleep after West Virginia, drive 4 hours to the hospital, do that whole thing again, sleep another couple hours, drive 3 hours to Trans-Allegheny. Oh my God, it was so bad. When I tell you I was like genuinely like delirious from lack of sleep, like I was ridiculous. Like I'm not proud of my actions, and I will never be doing something like that again.
Well, where are you from? Where are you located now?
I'm in the Seattle area of Washington State. So
Oh wow, that was a big trip.
Oh my God. I was flying across country like almost every other week last year. Like I'm very lucky I had that experience. Will not be doing it again anytime soon.
Well, if you ever make it back here to Wheeling, at the West Virginia Penn area,
Yeah.
hit me up. I'll take you to some
Absolutely.
places.
Oh, I want to go back. I definitely will be doing it again. It's just I didn't realize until like I took a step back to just start doing more local stuff, how draining it was mentally. And that's like a thing that like, if you're not surrounded by people who support you during the investigation and outside of the investigation,
Yeah.
all the expenses and all of the effort and all of the energy it takes can be really taxing on you. And that's not something that's talked about enough in the paranormal community, I feel
Ever,
like.
really.
It's very draining. Like energy wise, physically wise, like you're awake all night in not the greatest of conditions a lot of the time. Like it's exhausting, but it is so fun if you have the right people to do it with.
So
It makes
when you get together, I guess when you get your people, is it somebody different each time you go? Because like you said, Spooky B is just you. So
yeah.
So do you just like, hey, I'm going on this trip. Who wants to come? And you kind of just lead and teach?
I was lucky enough that all of my trips were through an event company that I used to support and be a big fan of. But we kind of had our, group of regulars who would go to every event to support the business and the owner. Ended up being almost the same people every time. But it was really just like seeing on social media, hey, is anybody going to this event? We'll be there. We'll meet you there. We'll do some stuff together and that kind of stuff.
Oh, that's neat. That's fun.
Yeah. I've met some really, really incredible people.
So do you ever do residential?
I do. I'm very, very picky about residentials that I do, simply because my findings, I don't ask for any information. If somebody comes up to me and is like, hey, this is what's happening in my house, I'm 100% sure it's haunted. Can you come in and investigate it with me? Sometimes I don't find what they want to hear, and that gets them upset.
Yeah, well.
So
you can't plan a haunt.
You can't plan a haunt. And I tell them that, like, when I do residentials, I will sit down with them, and before I even start investigating, we'll go get lunch. I'll treat them to lunch or like whatever. And I'll be like, hey, I'm going to be real with you. I'm assuming you've probably seen some kind of paranormal show, because there's no way that you got all of this vocabulary and notions from your own research. I'm sorry. Like, you're way too old, but and I'm going to be real with you. Spirits do not run on your own time. You're running on theirs. So there is no guarantee that I go into your house, spend 12 hours there, and I capture anywhere near what you say you've experienced. I believe you 100%. I will I don't care who they are. If you come to me and tell me that this is what you experienced, I believe you 100%. I take your word at face value. But what a lot of people don't understand is not everyone is meant to experience the same thing.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean that your house isn't haunted. I could experience absolutely nothing and your house could still very much be haunted. But what you don't do is when I don't experience the same thing and I brought in all my equipment and did all my experiments and I didn't get the same stuff, you don't get to go mad at me and tell me that I'm a fake.
Right. And that's, there was a lot of flack, I believe, on ghost hunters when they did the penitentiary in the West Virginia pen, because they got nothing that night. And I mean, it's a pretty active, and you got to keep going back because you can't plan a haunt. But I've been there at some pretty active times.
Oh my God. So we were up on the infirmary level, and keep in mind, this was also in the middle of August. So it was hot as hell in the penitentiary. Miserable. And we kept hearing doors banging on opposite sides of the really long hallway. And it was like toying with us. So we were like running back and forth. And by the end of it, we just stopped in the middle and we were like, okay, look, we get it. Just please chill. It is too hot for this right now.
Yeah, I did an event there one time, and I had a group going through, and same thing up in the infirmary. You just hear bam, bam, bam. You know what it's like. So, we're sitting there and it's quiet, and I was like, knock if yes, knock two no, that kind of deal. And then it seemed a little testy, and we're like, knock 3 times if you want us to leave. And it was bam, bam, bam. And we're like, well, let's get on out of here.
Boom. Yeah, the penitentiary is a different kind of beast, let me tell you that. But it's like the same thing. It's like, you shouldn't be getting flack from people if you don't have the same experience. Because, I'm sorry, spirits aren't dogs.
Right.
They were real people at one point, or at least we like to think that they are. Sometimes we don't know what they are. But you don't even know if they know they're dead.
Ooh. Little sixth sense.
You have no idea if this person or, being has processed that they are no longer in a physical form.
I don't know if you know who this is, but have you ever heard of Cline Ghost Hunter? He's on TikTok.
He's a very good dude. I've talked to him quite a bit on multiple occasions. I'm such a fan of his. He is I'm a little bit testy with YouTuber creators sometimes.
Yeah.
Because there's way too much faking evidence and dramatizing things that have no need to be dramatized.
Big time.
And I really appreciate that he keeps it real a lot of the time. There have been moments where I've just been like, but 9 times out of 10, I'm like, this is raw. This is real. I appreciate this. No BS. It's uncomfortable. It's not glamorized. This is what it's like, and people don't understand that.
Yeah.
Dude.
Well, Kalani has a theory, and I don't know if you've talked to him about that or not. But it's time is not parallel, I guess, with the dead. So, let's say he's sitting down having tea with a haunted location where they say there's a little girl having tea. In her mind, or in her reality, she is in the, let's say 1700s, drinking tea with her imaginary friend. And Kalani's here at this time drinking tea with a ghost girl. It's like a bleed through.
I haven't talked to him specifically about that, but I have heard that, and I've heard similar theories to that, and I absolutely think that's true.
It's very
because
neat.
I think that, just as when you die, you don't continue to age, why should time continue to age with you? I think that makes so much sense. And I think that it's a brilliant theory. And I hope as we develop more and more ways to investigate, there's ways that we can test that. Well, and I get that, another thing that people don't want to talk about is this is all pseudoscience.
Oh, yeah.
I know, unpopular opinion, I know, but it's a pseudoscience. And I think that, we can always develop more theories and more ways to test those theories. But that is honestly just one of the most clearly stated, most plausible theories I've ever heard in the paranormal. And I love it.
Very cool. Yeah, Kalani's a good dude.
He is.
And
Big fan.
He's done a lot for as young as he is, too. It's really cool.
Oh, no. When I first connected with him, he he had just kind of kicked off on TikTok, and I lost touch with him for a little bit. And then I came back and I was like, holy crap, dude, you've got millions of followers now. Like, what the heck happened?
Let's see, I was at a convention at the penitentiary with him, and he's like, here, man, take a sticker. And there was one sticker that just like had Kalani on it, and then one, it was like sexy cowboy pose. He's like, you want this one? I was like, I don't know if my wife can handle it.
He's such a good dude. Oh, God.
All right, so I want to ask you, because you've been investigating for a long time, if you could only take one thing on an investigation, flashlight's a given, all right, but one piece of equipment, what would you take?
I would take my digital recorder. Because I have one of the older models that Panasonic used to put out. It's not the DR60. It's like the one they put out right after that one. Mm-hmm. So it's still one of the ones where the only way to get your EVP off of it is to record it with your phone, unfortunately. But EVPs and digital recordings are my favorite way to capture evidence because they're so much harder to fight than a lot of other types of evidence you can collect. And a lot of the coolest evidence that I've captured has been from EVPs, and they spark some of the best conversations when you present it to people. You know, as long as you're presenting it in a way where you don't say, I hear this, tell me what you hear.
Yeah.
Because then you're automatically going to listen for that. Versus, I have no clue what this EVP says. Here's the raw footage. Tell me what you think it says.
You tell me if it's something. Man,
tell me if I'm crazy.
I used to get all the time, and Lord love some people out there, but they'd have like the recorder, and it just sounds like I'm going to be tapping against the mic here, but they're like, here, listen to this EVP. Is there anybody here? Did you hear that? It said, hi, my name's Bill. And you're like, what? What? You know, they're just kind of rubbing across the keyboard. And
there have been a couple that I've got where when I first hear it, I really think it might be something. And then I get home and play it back and I'm like, yeah, that was crap. There was literally nothing there. Like, I was so excited for literally nothing. But there have been a couple that I've gotten where no matter how many times I listen back to it, like over and over again, I'm like, well, it's haunted. I got what I needed. I'm going to go home and crawl under my bed and not think about that for a few days because I am terrified.
That's too real.
Well, because I'm 100% a believer, but I will try and disprove it in every way possible before I tell people that it's a ghost, because ghosts are scary and I don't like them. Like, I've had one too many terrible run-ins with ghosts that I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna keep doing this because it's cool, but like, I don't like y'all anymore, and you can just stay over there.
You were a lot funner when I was pretending to be tough. So where do you think, along that vein, where do you think I'll say the most scared you were or most unsettled you were on an investigation?
So last year, actually around this time last year, back in November of last year, actually, I was on a back-to-back investigation in Ohio at Madison Seminary and Fairfield County Infirmary.
Okay.
And when I was at Madison, I had an experience that almost made me quit the paranormal, like right then and there. I've never been so scared in my life.
Wow.
And so one of the things that I love doing, and I always do on investigations, is an Estes session. I love the Estes method. I think it is one of the best ways to remove a lot of bias from your investigation. And I never fail to get at least one really cool response anytime I've done it. And I've done probably hundreds by now. I've done lots of these. This night we were in the basement at Madison Seminary. We were doing a triple Estes session. So the basement is kind of like a T. You have a main hallway and then two branches. I was sitting at the end of the main hallway, and two other investigators were at either end. So we couldn't see each other. You know, we had our headphones on and we were blindfolded anyway. So, you know, nothing really there. And my two best friends were with me at that point, and hearing what they experience, because obviously what I experience is different than what they experience, because
Yep.
I can't hear or see anything. But this is coming from what my best friend Rihanna, who was with me at the time, saw, that the responses they were getting to the questions were very much like there were two little kids in the basement. They were talking about playing games and playing tricks and very playful responses. And so they thought that, two little kid spirits were in the basement. And this was just bouncing between me and one of the other investigators. The third investigator was not getting any responses, to the point where he was like, coming out from his headphones like, yo, are we actually still doing this? Is anything happening? And a few minutes later, all of a sudden, he starts getting response after response after response. And these are very, very creepy responses. The way that Rihanna put it, it was like a very creepy old man had just entered.
Oh, no.
And was just being very gross and creepy, is the way she put it. And at this point, so he was starting to say things like, come over here, trust me, play with me, and that kind of stuff. And I started getting responses that said, don't trust, stay away. And I was basically counteracting everything.
Oh, no. And you guys couldn't hear each other.
We couldn't hear each other. I had no idea any of this was happening.
Oh.
And at this point, I had started to feel a little bit uneasy, but that's pretty normal. So I was like, all right, just take a deep breath. We're going to keep going. And it sounded like one of the kids was still there. And Rihanna had said, do you want to play a game? Like, tell me what game is in the room behind me, and I'll go get it and we can play it. It was dominoes. There was a set of dominoes in the room behind her. And immediately I say, knock them over, like knock over the dominoes. And she was like, right, you want to knock them over? I'll go get them. She turns around and puts her toe on the threshold, and I immediately go, don't go in that room.
Oh.
And so naturally, Retta's like, okay, won't go anywhere near that room. Thank you very much. And then at this point, I started to get my name, and I started to feel not very safe at all. And at this point, me and the other investigator are still going back and forth. And I start getting responses like, don't touch her, stay away from her, leave her alone. And we had two other investigators who were down there, and one of them was psychic. And there's a video of it on my Instagram, actually, of, at this point, the gal who was psychic goes, it really likes her. And there's another woman saying, stay away from Hannah. You don't have permission to touch her. And asking, is Hannah in danger? And I got my name repeated 3 times again into the headphones. And then at this point, all of a sudden, I left my body and I was standing next to myself, watching myself do this Estes session.
Oh.
And behind me was a massive, over 6 foot tall black figure with red eyes who had me by the throat, and I could feel it. I could feel something squeezing my throat, and started whispering in my ear. And it was like repeating all of my darkest secrets, all of the crap like nobody knows about, into my ear, and taunting me about it, telling how I was going to tell everybody all of my secrets. And at this point, another gal had come and pulled me out. And the girl who was psychic came up to me after all of this was over, because I broke down in tears. I ran out of the building.
Well, yeah.
I was unconsolable for the rest of the night. She came up to me and she was like, hey, like, I don't want to freak you out, but I just want to be honest with you. Like, I saw, and I hadn't told anybody, by the way, like what I'd seen.
Yeah.
And she goes, I saw a massive 6 foot tall figure with red eyes standing behind you in the basement. Yeah, so that was the scariest night I've ever had in my 10 years of investigating.
Yeah, I'd say that would be up there if it wasn't the top. How long ago was that?
Just it was a year ago, like a couple weeks ago.
Now, I am curious, any other instances with a large, shadow person, or?
I had a reoccurring nightmare for about 7 or 8 months after I got home from that investigation, where 3:33 on the dot, I would wake up and I would see him in my hallway. And I would get
Nope.
Yeah, sleep paralysis, the whole deal. And it really actually only stopped when I actually brought my haunted doll into my house, and she is the spirit of a young woman who passed away from cancer, left behind two little boys of her own, and she is a very sweet and loving and protective spirit. And I got her to see if she could counteract the negative energy that was in my house, and it worked beautifully. She's also a great companion to have anyway, but her name's Abilene, and I love her for that.
All right. So with the haunted doll.
Yeah.
So there's two things that pop in my mind every time somebody says there's a haunted doll.
Yeah.
And one is like, it's the doll and it's got a little spirit inside.
Mm-hmm.
Or it's a big spirit holding a little doll. You're like, yeah.
You know, I really don't know how to describe Abilene. I don't really know the full story of like how this doll became her vessel. I was given a piece of paper that had everything that her previous owners had known from their previous owners and, you know, that kind of stuff. And it was really just who Abilene was when she was alive. Nothing quite terrible has happened yet. Like, she doesn't move by herself. She doesn't, like...
Well, that's a plus.
You know, no Annabelle-style stuff has been happening. No, she really only talks to me through my spirit box or through my ovulus.
Okay.
I do know that she really liked my boyfriend the first time he started hanging around, because before he started, you know, spending the nights and being here lots of times out of the week, she would start saying his name, and it would be like, "Where's Jordan?" My boyfriend's name is Jordan, by the way.
She's talking about me.
My boyfriend's name is Jordan. And, you know, mentioning his name, or he's also very tall, before I think she realized what his name was, like, "Where's the tall man?" would come through on my spirit box a lot. So she really likes him, which is a plus. But he hadn't ever had an experience with anything in my house until, I want to say, like a month ago, where he woke up when I was having a nightmare. But he woke up because on the opposite side from where I was sleeping, he heard my voice whisper in his ear, "Get the fuck out." So I don't know what that was, but something in my house has decided to start mimicking me, which I'm like, ha, that's so great.
So what do you think it was?
I have no idea, because my bedroom is, I cleanse the shit out of my bedroom. Like, I do monthly cleansings, I do protection spells, because like I have all of my Ouija boards and my oddities like in the main part of my house. I don't bring them in my bedroom because I don't want to, or bring anything in my bedroom. And I don't want to invite anything into the place where I sleep.
A safe place.
My safe place, exactly. So I genuinely have no idea. And it did freak me out a little bit, because I'm like, something has gotten past all of my cleansing and all of my spell work, and I don't like that. So I genuinely don't know what it is. Worst case scenario, it's my shadow friend that has come back, and he's just not happy about it, and he doesn't like that there's now somebody else in the house.
And definitely not good if it's mimicking you.
Yeah, it's not the first time that I have had a spirit mimic me, is the thing. Do I think it's a doppelganger situation? No. I would not be living here anymore if I thought it was a potential doppelganger situation. That's a lie. I absolutely would. I can't afford to move anywhere else. What are you talking about? I hate being poor.
Just be gentle.
I can't help it. God. But I don't know. It's more concerning to me what was said than the fact that something is mimicking me. Because I guarantee you, like, spirits will try and mimic what they hear all the time anyway.
Yeah.
And I don't think it's always necessarily a malevolent thing if something's mimicking you. I think it can be. But I think it kind of depends on the scenario, too. Because it could just be there's a spirit of a child who is just mimicking what it's hearing, as, you know, children do. Or on the flip side, it could be a very not nice thing who is trying to trick you. I don't know. Genuinely, I have no clue. I don't.
The
I
doll
also,
could also be that, right? Said your doll could also be that, right?
I would hope it's not her because, as far as I'm concerned, she really likes my boyfriend. So, if she said that, I'm gonna be real sad. Because let me tell you, the boyfriend's going before the doll is. So. she keeps the scary shadow man away.
Oh, Lord.
That is a lie. The doll would absolutely go before my
Yeah,
boyfriend.
just in case he listens to this episode. Yeah, totally. You would be the one that stays.
I would like to clarify that to save my own character. I would never place my haunted doll above my very alive and breathing boyfriend. As much as he may think I might, I genuinely wouldn't.
But I mean, we'll see. Right?
We will see. Oh, no. He might run off before I even get the chance to make a choice. So
Now, do you have any other haunted objects?
I have quite a few, actually. So on top of, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I have 8 Ouija boards hanging on my wall right now, which is just a fraction of my collection. My prized possession is my 1914 William Fold Ouija board. But I also have I have dirt from John Wayne Gacy's property. Going back to our true crime.
Well, that's neat.
Yeah. I don't know what possessed me to buy that. I was not thinking. I was like, "Oh, that's cool. I'm gonna buy it." Now it's sitting on my mantle. Let's see here. I've been on a spree with like animal spirits and thinking about like, the life after death for animals. I have a lot of like animal skulls and bones on my mantle too. And then I have, on the witchy side of things, I am a practicing witch, so I have like all of my spell jars and my candles, and it's such a weird mishmash of stuff that like you don't really know where to look first, and I can't wait until I have like more space and I can actually organize all my oddities and stuff. And then obviously I have my doll. I only have one haunted doll. It's been a struggle not to buy more to like experiment.
Well, what if they don't get along?
That's why I haven't done it, because I finally came to a realization. It was like, there's enough ghosts in here anyway. I really don't think I should be bringing more in willingly at this point.
It's getting really crowded.
Hey, she's a good friend anyway. So
Somebody's got to go, Jordan.
Hey, listen, I really like my boyfriend, and I'd miss him terribly if he went. But listen, if the ghosts don't like him, they don't like him. Like, what can I say?
Oh, Lord.
My dog just gave like the biggest, most labored sigh. Like, her life is just so hard.
It's like this again.
Literally.
All right, so getting back into like the paranormal stuff, like where is your favorite place that you've investigated?
My favorite place that I've ever investigated is actually a local place.
Okay.
And I was just there recently, actually. It's St. Ignatius Hospital, and it's up in Colfax, Washington. And it is a 130-year-old haunted hospital. It was operated by the Sisters of Charity when it first opened, so nuns. And it was also a mental health and old age home before it was finally shut down.
Okay.
And it is a amazing, amazing building. The owners are currently working on, restoring it and working on getting it back to what it used to be. And they're doing a phenomenal job so far. It's a massive, massive project for just the two of them to be working on. It has some of the most active spirits, consistently active spirits, I should say, that I've ever experienced.
Okay. What kind of stuff have you had go on there?
There's some very aggressive shadow figures there. I will say that on like the darker side of things. But my own personal opinion on that is that those shadow figures are more of a manifestation of all the sadness and pain that the patients went through when they died in the hospital versus actual malevolent spirits. That's just my personal opinion.
Kind of like a composite energy.
Yeah. There's a very mean man in a wheelchair who really hates women. I've been called some very unsavory names by him multiple times. There's also a past patient named Rose in her room. Rose's room is a very big hot spot. She doesn't really talk to you much unless she's not being the center of attention. Once you stop paying attention to her, she'll come out and talk to you. There's a priest there. And I've had mixed signals from him. I don't really know how I feel about this. Last time we were there, we were doing some Estes sessions, and we nicknamed him Daddy Dale because he kept saying he wanted to have one of the investigators' babies.
Oh.
So that was something. And then the nuns up in the nun quarters are just the worst. The first time I ever went to St. Ignatius, I was just doing a walkthrough, no equipment or anything. And I walk up into the nuns' quarters, which is in the attic. And the minute I step foot in there, I hear a disembodied voice go, "She's a whore." And I was like,
now, I said your favorite place.
it is my favorite place because it's the place that got the most consistent activity. I didn't mean like they were nice spirits or anything, but you get some dang good.
It's my favorite place, but it's absolutely horrible. But like, I love it. But they call me names.
It's not horrible at all. They just have some very unsavory characters that you may meet there.
Now, how much of that do you think, being an investigator, do you think that it is more residual or intelligent?
I think it's a good mix, honestly, because, there is a lot of stuff that you can corroborate to real life people and real life events to when the hospital was in operation. That's the word, English, Hannah. We know this. We're good at this. And then like the shadow figures, for example, I think are a better example of the residual energy. And it also plays into one of my favorite theories of the paranormal is that I don't think you have to be dead to leave behind a residual haunting.
Oh, agreed, 100%.
Because hauntings are essentially energy, leftover energy from past people and past events.
And that's why I say, because hospitals and prisons, I believe, have a lot of residual that are going on.
Well, yeah, and it's like, as an investigator, you use and exert a lot of energy when you're doing these things and doing these investigations. And it's, one of the things that I think about a lot is, I don't know if you're familiar with Wilson Castle up in Vermont, but beautiful location. You should definitely look into it. It's another one of my favorites for different reasons than St. Ignatius, but it is one of the most beautiful places I've ever been to. And one of the co-owners, his name is Andy. He has a very distinctive voice, and I spent the night there. And when I woke up, me and another investigator woke up one morning to hear Andy moving around and talking downstairs, and we panicked because we were like, did we oversleep? Like, we got to be out of here if Andy's already here. And we went down. Andy was nowhere to be found. And Andy is very much alive and kicking.
Right, yeah.
So it's stuff like that where it's like, if you put enough blood, sweat, and tears and energy into an investigation or into a location, I think it's very possible that you leave residual energy or footprints or your own haunting behind.
Very neat outlook on that. You might be the first investigator that I've had on here that said that.
I didn't personally come up with that theory myself. It was kind of one that my a couple old friends and I kind of came up with and bounced off of a bunch of people and built off of that. But it is one that I stand by firmly, and I like to engage in it a little bit more. Just because I think that a lot of people don't take that into consideration when they consider activity that they get in a building. And I think narrow-minded isn't the right word, but I think if you think that everything you experience in one location happened during a specific period of time or during one specific event, it's stupid to think that.
Yeah.
Because there's so much history and so much happens and so much energy from so many different people is put into a place. I think it is a little bit narrow-minded. That is the right word, to think that it could only be caused by one certain haunting or one certain event or one certain ghost.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like not to. I'm just going to use an example that you just gave. Like you said it was a Rose, her room.
Yeah.
Right. For as long as that hospital was there, that had somebody new in it like every week.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So who knows? Like at one point, Rose could have popped through and on a spirit box went Rose. But, like, there could be, like, 50 different energies, coming through in there.
Oh,
you never know.
And, like, Rose is, like, you hear, if you bring out a Phasma box in that room, Rose comes through quite a bit. And you really only tell it's her because she likes to mention herself by name quite a bit. But you get, like, hundreds. I can't count the many different voices that I have picked up in that room that are very clearly not a female and not Rose.
It's definitely not Rose.
No, there have been some very deep and disgruntled voices that I'm like, you do not sound, no, I don't like you. No, not gonna entertain that.
All right, Hannah, where can people find you? How do they get involved with you? What if they have questions for you? How do they get you?
You can find me most active on my Instagram. I used to have Twitter. I don't engage with Twitter anymore for a lot of reasons. But my Instagram is suchaspooky_B, and you can find my TikTok on the same username.
Such a spooky bee.
That's me.
That's funny. All right, thank you so much, Hannah. I really do appreciate you coming on the show. We're gonna have you back.
I would love to come back. Thank you so much for having me.
So keep in contact and let's keep conversations open.
Absolutely.
All right, thank you so much, Hannah.
You're very welcome. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
And with that, the fire is out. Thank you so much, Hannah, for coming on the show. Thank all of you for listening. I appreciate y'all so much. If you haven't had the chance to connect with me online, Fireside Paranormal Hub is the Facebook group. You can also find me on Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter at Fireside Parapod. That's Parapod for Twitter. Since it is December, the Krampus design is now up for your shirts or any other merch you want. They got lots of stuff on there. But if you go to firesideparanormal.com, the website, and click on the merch section, it'll take you to it. There's usually a bunch of sales going on around the holidays, so check that out. The Krampus design is only here for a short time. And if you haven't joined the Patreon yet, give that a shot. Patreon.com/firesideparanormal. Lots of fun stuff on there. Merch giveaways, Discord server, bonus audio, behind-the-scenes interviews, and the interview-only section of the show. So a lot of fun stuff on there. Tiers start at just $1. That is patreon.com/firesideparanormal. That is all the time we have for this week. So until next week, everybody, don't be afraid, only believe.